So I'm just going to keep this Moon Monday real simple. Be honest with yourself. The more you can be honest with yourself, the more honest you can be with others. And the more that you're honest with yourself and others, the more you have room for improvement in your life. I'll tell you why. Because if you're able to honestly look at what's going on in your life, that means you can point out problems and problematic areas and weak spots. And if you can point them out, that means you have the wherewithal to change them. And if you can change them, they no longer will be weak spots, so you'll become stronger, right? And then also, if you're able to be honest with others, they'll be able to in turn grow as well from their weak spots. But then also, people will just look at the way you live your life and the way your life goes and trust you to be honest with them and trust you as someone they can depend on in a certain sense, because you're not going to lie. You feel me? If you're not going to do something, you're not going to do it. If you think something was dumb or that they shouldn't have did it, you feel me? Not everybody cares, but the people who actually want to grow and want to be held accountable will seek you out as the person to ask because they see the level of honesty you have with yourself. And for me personally, I believe that the more honest you're able to be with yourself, the more honest and authentic you're able to live your life, because you're not going to worry so much about covering things up because you're going to be actively looking at what it is you're bringing and presenting. And I'd hope to believe if you have this much wherewithal to observe it, that you'd have enough in you to also change it if it wasn't working either to your best interest or in the interest of those around you and actually helping you accomplish your goals, right? And so I believe that honesty is the first step in self improvement and growth. Because if you are telling yourself nothing needs to change, but every day you're asking yourself, why do I dislike everything about my life? There's a disconnect. Because if you're saying nothing needs to change, then there would be no reason that you wouldn't be happy with the things in your life, right? And so the more honest you become about the effort you put in as well. I know that I need this amount of effort to reach this goal, but this is the amount of effort I've been putting in. Therefore, you're never going to actually reach the goal. So if you become honest with yourself and say, I'm not putting in enough effort, what are things that I can start to do to get me ready for the level of effort I need to put in? And then doing it, before you know it, you'll be reaching those success markers. But if you just always tell yourself it's okay, or I'll do it later, or I did good enough, or I'll get to it, or I don't need to do that in order to get to where I need to be, I feel like that's one of the biggest ones we tell ourselves is I don't have to do it that way, or maybe there's another way, and maybe there's another way. And part of the reason we tell ourselves that maybe there's another way or I don't have to do it that way is because we see the amount of work that has to be put in, and it either scares us or it challenges us. It's scary because I don't know if I can do that, or how much am I going to have to give up in order to do that? And then sometimes all you have to give up is looking foolish for a little bit, looking silly for a little bit. Why do I say looking foolish or looking silly? Because as a beginner in things, sometimes we start off not doing as well as we hope to, and then we feel embarrassed. So a lot of it, I feel like, comes down to our ego and our fear of our ego being bruised by looking silly or looking dumb or being made fun of. When at the end of the day, we all started off as babies who was falling on our faces. So how many steps, how many tries, how many reps did it take for you to be able to run, for you to be able to ride a bike, for you to graduate to driving a car? And so it's like, even the first couple of times you drove a car, you probably were making a fool out of yourself or just doing silly, funny things that you would laugh at a seasoned driver saying they were seasoned in doing today. But we all just have to start somewhere. And so if we're honest with ourselves about why we're not starting, we will actually start sooner. And then once we get started, if we're honest with ourselves about the quality of our output and the quality of our work and the quality of our results, we'll be able to change it way faster than if we stay in denial saying, not now, maybe later, or it's all right. Stop that. Just honestly say, dang, dog, what I did today wasn't enough. What I did yesterday wasn't anything. The amount of work that I did today, while it was great, more needs to be done. You can also acknowledge when you did great, because when you acknowledge the things that you do well, you give yourself more fuel to do more of that. You give yourself more fuel to do more things that are going to help boost you up. After you've completed one task successfully, you'll be like, okay, well, if I could do that, then I can do this. And if I can do that, then I could do this. And that's another level of being honest with ourselves, is saying that, you know what, maybe I'm afraid, but if I did this already, then I can probably do this too. And I know that I have the skills and capability. I just don't know how to put it all together. That's being honest with yourself. Even if you're giving yourself the credit that you are due, you don't have to be honest with yourself and tear yourself down only. Sometimes you need to be honest with yourself and say, you know what, I did way better than I thought I was going to. Wow, I did way more than I even knew how to. Sometimes it's as simple as looking at the steps you already took and being honest and saying, well, okay, so no, I didn't get to the point that I wanted to be at, but this is a 25 step process. And I've already taken 12, 15 of the steps in this period of time. So if I did that amount in that period of time, I can do the next 10 in at least that same amount or half that time, right? But that's being honest with yourself and looking at the bigger picture. Sometimes we start to fail because we look at the end point or the bigger goal without all of the small steps that it takes to reach that goal. And then we feel like we're a failure. We feel daunted, right? But we're not being honest with how successful we've already been because we're looking outside of where we should be. So being honest with yourself is also going to make you look in the right places. Because if you sit here and you are lying to yourself and you're saying, I'm already that $1 billion earner, I'm already that number one athlete, I'm already this superstar, and you don't actually look at where you are and the amount of work that you've done, you're lying to yourself as well. You feel me? You could talk yourself up as good as you want to. You could say your skill level is good as you want it to be. You feel me? But you're not actually going to grow because you're not putting in the work to actually become that star. But on the flip side as well, you feel me? You got to have a balance of positive belief in yourself and realistic knowledge of what it takes to reach that goal. You have to believe you can reach that goal, and you have to take the necessary steps to show and prove that, but also build your confidence around the way. At the same time, you have to be honest with your shortcomings and your failures. So it's a constant reassessment of, okay, I'm doing really well over here. I can do better over here. I'm doing really good right here, and this is failing. You got to balance it out. But first, you just got to be able to be honest with yourself. So then you can accept the things that need to change for the good or for the bad. We out.